A warm welcome, and my goodness, it is very warm today on Tuesday, the 9th of August 2022, for I think it's the fourth edition of the Podful of Saints of this season, with myself, David Tavener, somewhere over in sunny St Albans, Leewood.
David, Jacob.
Jacob, you went there. Is Jake Elephant? Jake Ellacott.
Thank you very much. That's it's not the worst thing you've called me. Hello, everyone.
Guess he's got a new nickname now, buddy.
Starters remain to go on, indeed. Right, we got a competitive match to look back on for the first time since last, April. Saturday, we were down at Melbourne Park against Chelmsford City, National League South. A 1-1 draw, a point away from home, the opening day of the season. What could be better than that? How did you see it, Lee?
Jake Elephant, that's great. I didn't think it was that bad, Dave, it was honest. I thought Chelmsford were atrocious. And first half, I thought we created some really good chances. How the hell we didn't get a penalty, I do not know. It was bright. I mean, the ground wasn't particularly conducive to free-flowing, slick passing football. But then again, we don't do that anyway, so that's not the point. Yeah, it was. I thought we were good value for the win because I just thought Chelmsford offered very little, really.
Jake, is that what you saw?
Yeah, I thought, as Lee says, first half wasn't too bad. I don't know how we didn't get a penalty. I think a few of the officiating decisions on Saturday were a bit questionable, including missing a couple of massive holes in the net of the goal, which is always a good sign, isn't it? If the officials missed that before the game
that
even
was
starts.
so Sunday League.
It was brilliant, wasn't it?
Quality.
But yeah, I think Chelmsford caused us some real trouble in that last 20 minutes, didn't they? I think that's the only concern, and I think we saw again a possible vulnerability to high balls and long balls forward, etc. But it's an improvement on the start of last season. Last season we lost our first two. I'll take a point.
Well, I'm going. So I was obviously at a different game as usual. I thought the game started well. The first 10 minutes, I thought both sides showed some attacking intent, which was unlike most games in National League South last season. So I thought that was positive. But it went downhill from there. The quality just wasn't there. It was abysmal. The pitch was poor. It was very dry, which unavoidable the way things are at the moment. But they did have parched areas. The goal mouth at the furthest end from the turnstiles was quite dreadful. To start the season like that, that's not going to help. And playing on that pitch is not going to help Chelmsford one little bit. I don't think we deserve to win. We yes, probably shaded the first half. I'll go along with that. A penalty. You look at the highlights, the reason why we didn't get it is because the bloke got the ball. I'm talking to a couple of people behind the goal. I know you two were there. They also felt that the best we could have hoped for there was a corner, and we certainly should have got that. But a penalty, it looks a bit doubtful. And what about the one that was cleared off the line? You two were clearer and closer to that than I was. I was in the stand. Again, a couple of people I spoke to behind the goal, they thought the defender did get it off the line before it crossed the line.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it was touch and go. I don't think the whole ball crossed the sort of line. But one thing I would say is that we took the lead with a really well taken goal. The finish was superb. But then what happened was once we conceded, we got back into our old habits. It all got very frenetic, all got very fraught and panicky. And then what Ian did, I don't know whether Ian did this or the players just took it upon themselves. They went a bit more direct to sort of try and pin them back in their half. Unfortunately, when you want to sort of play those massive balls out wide, we haven't got the quality to do that, either the distribution or the people holding them up. It just looked a little bit lazy. And I thought, can I just say as well, I thought Chris Paul had a really poor game in the middle of the park. He got shrugged off the ball far too easily for that equaliser. And I thought he gave away a couple of sloppy passes in dangerous areas. So I think he's got to sort of fine-tune that area, especially if he's going to, because we are going to need him to be a key player in the middle of the field there. I take what you're saying about we don't deserve to win, but I thought they were so poor. I think our game management needs to be better. When you go a goal up against a relatively poor side, we need to find out how to manage games better. And ultimately, we didn't cost it. A few minor mistakes here and there, and it cost us, some points.
Chris Paul, of course, came on at half-time for an injured even Mitchell. I'm doing well tonight on names. Mitchell Rice. hopefully Mitch will be fit for Saturday's game against Oxford City. I agree with you. I didn't think Paul had the best of games, but the centre of midfield, we pointed it out last season, and it's happening again this season already. It looks to be a problem. I thought Ches Isaac also had a very disappointing debut. I thought his passing wasn't great. His set pieces were atrocious. And Nobby, you're not too old to play the game. Get fit and come back, because Ian's going to have to address it. I think we still may have a problem in there. What do you think, Jake?
I think, yeah, the midfield was definitely a bit of a concern. Only one game in, of course, but as you say, Ches Isaac, especially, I thought he really struggled at times. I think, Dave, am I right in thinking at the end of the first half he took one of the worst free kicks we've seen in quite a while? It was almost sent to Colchester, wasn't it? So yeah, it's a bit of a struggle in midfield, and I think a bit of a concern for me is we already look a little bit light in sort of depth and squad members. The options on Saturday coming off the bench wasn't anything exciting or that could particularly change a game. And as Lee says, we went forward with the long ball after Chelmsford equalised, or even after we scored, to be honest. And we just lost our way totally. And that final 20 minutes, we didn't really create much at all, I didn't think. And, that's just not the sort of football we want to be playing at this stage of the season, even with a poor pitch. So I think the big concern for me is the squad depth and how we're struggling there already. And as you say, Dave, Mitchell Weiss, who we spoke to briefly after the game, didn't really? He was limping quite badly, really. He didn't really know what it was. He was hoping it might just be a dead leg or something similar, but I think they were going to assess it Monday, Tuesday, see how bad it was. But he didn't look happy with it at all. So I think definitely some concerns there already.
Two other new players on Saturday for us, or in a competitive game anyway. Right back to Faringmore. I thought he did okay, nothing spectacular. I'm not sure that he's an improvement on Devante Stanley, but I thought he was okay.
I think Stanley, would definitely show a bit more of an attacking intent in that sort of game to get down that right, especially when, at times he had Joe Neal in front of him. And again, is Joe Neal naturally there? We didn't really have a right winger sort of ready to start on Saturday. So I think Stanley would have been helpful there, to be honest.
The other new boy was left back, Mackye Townsend-West.
Now we're talking.
I thought he was the best of the new boys.
Absolutely. I thought best player on the pitch, I thought.
By a country mile. Just that. Isn't it funny how that little bit of quality being introduced into the game? It sort of brings others around them and he raises their game a little bit, but he can't do it all by himself. I thought he read the game superbly well. I thought he was quick. I thought that vision he had as well. You can see he was a class above anything else on that park. But again, that is the level of player we need to be attracting to the club. Imagine if we had 3 or 4 more of that type of player who can read the game so well. And I know this is a horrific cliche, but passing to someone and looking forward to pass as well. Start the attack from the off, which isn't always the way. And it's not easy. But there were some massively bright sparks on Saturday. I thought Banton played well. Jeffers did his role fantastically as well. But yeah, for me, Townsend-West was the shining light. Really energetic, especially on a baking hot day as well. And hopefully more to come from him. Superb.
Funny enough, I thought Sean Jeffers, I thought he was looking for free kicks too easily rather than looking to really impose himself on the game. And given how poor our set pieces are, that's not a great benefit to us. It's better to come from him, that's for sure. And we're going to hope that Townsend-West stays at that level. Despite coming from Stevenage, he looks a decent player.
Yeah, it's just a shame, really, sort of stuck at left back, isn't it? Because I thought, as Lee said on Saturdays, easily the best player on the pitch, and he looks so comfortable on the ball. And fair play to him. He's come into a side that he's not exactly, he hasn't had much time to play with the lads around him, but he already looks natural there. So I think that was one real positive. I think fair play to Ian and his coaching staff for getting him in. But now I think the rest of the squad need to step up to his level.
What does the future hold then for Alex Lancashire? If Mackay, what his name is, carries on playing like that, that's the left back sewn up. Is there a place for Alex further down that left-hand side?
Well, that's where he started. When he was at school at level, he played on the left-hand side of attack. So there's no reason to suggest he can't do it. It's a massive leap from school level, to the Conference South. That said, he's got the quality, hasn't he? He's just got to be given time there. But unfortunately, he's going to have had to hit the ground running, simply because, as Jake said, we're light on quality. I don't mind the squad depth. I think it's just the lack of quality that is a concern for me. I can't see Lancashire being putting out on the left attacking side anytime soon. Maybe introduce him at sort of periods, but I think for me, he's going to struggle to get back into the side really at the minute.
I think on that left as well, surely Liam Soul should be lining up to take any spot there. And if he's getting jumped ahead by Alex Lancashire, then again, you have to wonder, why is Liam Soul in the squad, So there are options, which is good. But it is difficult for Alex to get into that team in a minute. But, we don't know what's going to happen in the next match. Mackay West might get a knock. We don't know what's going to happen. So, but you do wonder if maybe in a month or two, you might see Alex sent out to get a bit of loan and game time, because he's young. He's got to play to keep developing.
You mentioned earlier, Jake, about Joe Neal being out on the right rather than central to our attacking options. What's he had now? 17 games and he hasn't scored yet. Is it a case of almost just trying to find him a place in the side? Because I don't see much benefit of him out there. He put one decent crossover, I think. I don't know. I'm struggling to see a place for him in the side at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. But then, I mean, who else is there at the minute for the right? You probably Mitchell Weiss, I suppose, but then who's behind the striker? Joe Neal there instead. But now Weiss is out. I think Joe Neal might have to stay there. I'm not sure, really. It is difficult, especially with Romeo Akinola, out for an unknown period of time. And in the match preview on the City website last week, I think they put Minash Sunday out for 10 days, whereas Romeo Akinola, they just put long term. What does that mean? We don't know how long that's going to be. So, as you say, we've all said we like Joe Neal, but he's not going to get those goal scoring opportunities out there, is he? I think we saw that on Saturday. He barely had a sniff of goal. But then I don't know who else to put there.
I would like Joe Neal more if he scores some goals.
Yeah,
if I'm honest. He must be feeling the pressure himself. It's almost a case of being a bit sort of looking desperate now from Ian's point of view, trying to fit him into a side which doesn't really complement his game. I mean, he will run all day long, and he did run on Saturday. In the baking hot sun on a rock hard pitch, he did well in that aspect. But he's the one who should be on the receiving end of these passes and getting into the box and making those runs. And unfortunately, he's having to be proven the full guy at the minute just to sort of fit into the side and offer that other alternative attacking option.
I do wonder if, could playing in behind Sean, if Weiss is out this Saturday, could that be something that works? I mean, away at Dulwich, I know that was a long time ago now, but he was almost just behind Jeffers, wasn't he? And that's probably one of his best performances, because he could actually link up with Sean and they could work together. So maybe that's an option that could work, hopefully.
Well, it was nice to see Kyran Wiltshire's goal. He's first in the league for us in 72 games he's played now. And the thing about it being good, it's a midfielder getting on the score sheet early. We lacked support for Sean last season. So hopefully one or two other players can help out on days like Saturday where I don't think he had a sniff of goal.
Yeah, you emphasised that last week and in previous episodes, Dave, how important it is that we actually get some midfielders that can score. So it's good to see him step up. Good finish, really good finish, has to be said. I was actually quite surprised that it was his first ever league goal, considering how many appearances he's had for us now. So, as you say, I think that does conclude the lack of goals we've had from midfield. But yeah, important for him to step up, and someone's got to take the pressure off Sean, because he can't do it all himself.
Chelmsford had 4 debutants on Saturday as well in the starting 11. The goalkeeper, Ovi. Oh my goodness, I wish I hadn't started this. Right, the goalkeeper. He was a debutant from Arsenal. I can't see the quality there, but get him on Arsenal's books, could you?
Yeah, but you're a hard man to please, though, Tav. So he did okay. He was quite sort of towering, wasn't he? And he commanded, and he spoke really, really well. I think we always sort of hark back to the days when Dean Snecker was in goal for us. Excellent keeper, but just very, very quiet. And I think maybe what he lacks in a quality, he made up for in terms of his vocal element on Saturday, because he commanded the back line superbly well.
one of the other debutants I had, Aransibia. That's not a bad way to mark your debut with a goal he got.
Decent finish.
Michael Johnson wasn't at fault, was he?
No, I don't think
he hit it well, didn't he?
But I think, like Lee said earlier, you've got to stop that further up the pitch, haven't you? You can't let him get into that position and finish like that. But I think they had another one as well. Was it Ludovicia? Came on, a big lad. And Ian basically said he just caused absolute chaos. Bringing a big lad on against us. That's what happened. So, but I say Chelmsford, quite a few new starters, and I think they'd be quite happy with the result, given everything that's going on there at the minute.
Yeah, things that are going on there at the moment. They're in dispute with their owners, of course, something that never ever occurs at Clarence Park, looking back over the last 20 years. Lee, I think you've got a bit more information on what was going on at Chelmsford.
Yeah, so we just made a point of having a chat with them, didn't we, Jake, beforehand, and finding out, what exactly is going on. And if what they're saying is true, it makes our team sound like a couple of Boy Scouts, to be fair, because it's absolutely shocking the way that they're being treated. But that said, being a non-league fan, you're not hiding to nothing, aren't you? Because you only want the very, very best for your club, and nine times out of 10, your club is in the hands of someone else, and you're never ever going to be always happy. But I do feel for them, because there've been the promises of new ground and new money investment into the side, and fans have now foregone their volunteering roles, and they're missing games for their club. And it's just a sorry state of affairs, especially when you've had the whole summer to discuss and talk and maybe make some progress. So to see them, I mean, the fact that Chelmsford are giving away free tickets to get in tells you everything you need to know about how desperate they are to get, that goodwill back inside.
That was incredible, wasn't it? On your opening day of a season, just trying to counter the action by the fans.
Yeah, and I think you saw. Sorry, Dave. You saw. At one end there's normally cover terracing, isn't there? They weren't able to get that out because they're running short of volunteers to be able to do stuff like that. So, yeah, these things. It's always very sad, but they're certainly not the only club with issues like that at all.
You mentioned a new ground in there, Lee. I read their chairman's notes in the programme. It was so unconvincing what he said about the grounds. It really does seem pie in the sky. It doesn't seem to be anything firm in the pipeline at all.
That's non-league chairman for you, Taz. What do you expect, mate? Come on.
Yes, I think we can relate to that. Anyway, that's Chelmsford City, and a point for us on the open day of the season. You two both predicted a win, so obviously you're not at all happy.
I think we were happy in the end, just about.
This coming Saturday, we are at Clarence Park. I think that's its name. Home to Oxford City, the Hoops of Oxford. They went down 3-1 on the open day of the season, home to Eastbourne Borough. So Eastbourne might be mounting another playoff challenge like they did last year. But Oxford were up there last season, so that was a surprise. I still got Joey Schifano, but they've lost Elliot Benyon to Slough, and our other old boy as well, Harvey Bradbury, to Gosport Borough.
Oh, Harvey's found another club. Wow. Yeah, I have to say, there's a few surprising results on Saturday. I think that was definitely up there with one of them. We know Eastbourne good side. But Oxford did very well last season, and that final away trip of last season, it was all pretty comfortable in the end for them, wasn't it, against us down at their place? What's it called now? The Raw Charging Stadium down there, where they accept cryptocurrency to pay for your pints, etc.
That's brilliant, isn't it? That's brilliant.
So it was a difficult one, but it's a poor start for Oxford, really, and they'll be looking to bounce back. And I think we've spoken about, maybe not on the podcast, but I know, Lee, we've definitely spoken about that. It's not exactly an easy start for the Saints this campaign, is it? With these two home games coming up against two sides that could easily be really tough challenges.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's going to be any easy starts, really, because the fact is the first 3 or 4 games are an unknown entity to everybody. But what I would say is that I'm not totally disheartened by a performance against Chelmsford. I think there were some bits we could sort of take away, and there are things that we can improve on. But Oxford City gives us the perfect opportunity to do that. We're at the park. It's going to be a great day. Big crowd anticipated. Sun is shining. Tabs is going to be in a good mood. The tannoy is going to be blaring. The pizzas are going to be twirling, and it's all going to be good.
Of course, we've got 2 successive home games now. Next Tuesday, what's that, 16th? Hungerford Town down the park. They lost as well on Saturday. So if we're going to make this point look really good, we've got to follow it up with what? 2 wins or a win and a draw?
I don't see any reason why we can't get the 6, because Hungerford don't travel well, especially, and I think Ian's going to be looking for a response. I mean, it's the first game for crying out loud, and fans are always super, critical on the first game of the season. But we've got a point, which is more than either of those two have got. So I think we can look at it with some sort of perspective. 2 home games where we've played well. The pitch is going to be in our favour, and there's actually no reason why we can't get the 6 points.
I agree absolutely. And you look at it from Ian's perspective and the club's perspective of, if you can start the first 3 games with 7 points, that totally changes the narrative for the start of the season. And that's absolutely superb. Again, after last season as well start. So, but Ian's got to be going in confident. You pick up a point on the road last Saturday, you avoid defeat, and now, like Lee says, you've got to go in against 2 teams that have lost, feeling like you want to pick up 3 points. And, it's going to be a good crowd. The Clarence Park pitch looks all right at the moment, especially compared to Chelmsford. So, got to be confident. I think the only concern Ian will have will be over the possible couple of injury issues that he might have. But otherwise, I think against Oxford City, and I think, unlike Chelmsford, we know Oxford will try and play some really good football on the ground. And hopefully we can try and counter that with some good football ourselves.
You mentioned earlier about the squad maybe not having strength in depth. Of course, another player who was on the bench on Saturday, who's been a regular last season and even shorter season before that, when he was fit, Michael Clark. He didn't make the starting lineup. Any surprises there? Or are you happy with that back 4 as it is?
I mean, I like it when Adbayi and Clark play together. I think they are the stronger defensive pairing in the middle there. But I don't really know if Joy McKenna and Callum did much wrong on Saturday against Chelmsford, really. There was a lot of variables. They did defend. Of course, Chelmsford got in a couple of times, but I don't think either of them particularly deserves to be dropped. Probably the one that's probably more under pressure from Clark at the minute is potentially Tafari Moore. But then again, he didn't do much wrong either. So I think it's probably going to still be a place on the bench for Clark on Saturday, unless there's an injury concern. But yeah, and it was interesting actually that Ian, I think this new lad from Stevenage can play across the back 4 at centre half. But interesting hearing some interviews from Ian last week that he was still after a centre half as well. So I think he's still got some question marks over who can play there. But I think this new lad from Stevenage potentially provides that cover for both positions he was talking about.
Talking of defenders, earlier in the summer we mentioned it looked dodgy for the future for Tom Bender, and sure enough, he did go during the summer. Would you two like to comment on that?
I think
it wasn't a massive surprise, was it, mate? To be honest with you,
no.
I mean, the fact that he was at the ground, but he wasn't being selected. He was in, he was just walking around. Ian was making the noises that, it's in his ball, it's in his court, shall I say? And there was a lot of toing and throwing, and I don't know. I mean, I feel sorry for Tom because he's been such a massive player for the club. He's a real sort of blood and thunder defender, and I would like to thank him for all his time at City. Big heart, big character, big leader as well. So to see him go isn't a massive surprise. But whoever sort of, I think that's why Ian needed some quality there to come in and fill those boots. And I think he's got options there now. I think if Tom was honest to himself, he didn't have the best season last year. And I think Ian needed to sort of refresh that whole back line.
Jake?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was the right time for Tom to go. I think he's been a brilliant servant to the club. I don't think anyone could ever question that at all. And even towards the end of last season, it felt like those sort of final couple of games were probably going to be his farewell tour, especially the final game against Tonbridge, signed off with an own goal. And hurting his own wrist. A bit of a harsh way to go, to be fair. Tom's been a law servant. He's had a lot of great moments, and I'll always remember the story he used to tell on almost every new player on sort of away days within the media team. He'd say, when I first joined the club, Jimmy Graham Gold's got sacked same game, so that really set the tone for my time here. So he's done well to get 250 appearances. I think the only surprise for me is he's dropped down to Hamworth Fidder, hasn't he? I thought he'd be sort of more Hendon, sort of that level, maybe drop one division. But he's dropped to join his mate Sam Merson at Hamworth.
Because they were unbeaten last season in the league, got promoted, so they're very much on the up. But yeah, it is an interesting move going there.
Yeah, it is.
Tash, can I just ask, mate, what do you think his legacy will be in terms of the players that have played in his position over the last, say, 10, 15 years, given the fact that he has been a stalwart in the Saints side?
He has. One of the problems is if towards the end of your career, if you're not quite as good as you were earlier, people remember that because it's like a normal game. If you see a first half and it's really good, and the second half is rubbish, unfortunately, you're going home mostly with a memory of a second half. Now, if you can switch it round, you're going home with good memories. And Tom, he didn't have the best of seasons last year, and it did look like it was coming towards the end of his time there. But I think looking back, I think Jake's right, the wholehearted bit. His quality wasn't always there because his distribution could be dodgy. Balls were overhit, we know that. On other times, he could hit a fantastic cross from almost any position on the pitch. And I always felt his best position probably was in the centre of the defence rather than at left back. And he maybe should have spent more time there. I've got no doubt that history, in the end, will look on him favourably.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't get to sort of play 250 games for our club if you're rubbish, do you? So,
I think. Sorry, Dave. Say
a couple of others in the squad you'd like to be seeing do a bit better before I get close to that figure.
I think on Twitter as well, he put out a really nice sort of goodbye message as well. So anyone that hasn't seen it, I'd certainly recommend go find his Twitter and have a look. It was lovely. It shows how the club meant a lot to him. And I think it was a really hard decision for him to decide to go in the summer. So best of luck, Tom. You'll always be welcome back at Clarence Park, I think.
Yeah, I think as Lee said, it wasn't that big a surprise that after he got sent off at Concord last year, he was left out for the next 7 games and just brought back for his 250th on the final day of the season. So that did look like a swan song at the time. And as you mentioned it, Jake, he marked it by badly damaging his hand and scoring an own goal in the opening few minutes.
I'm sure he laughs when he looks back on it.
He will do. He will do. Yes. One thing, Jake, did we take a supporters coach to Chelmsford Saturday?
No, one wasn't organised for that. There is one going to Tonbridge, I believe. I believe there is Tonbridge. I don't have the details to hand for it, but yes, I think if you're interested, speak to Ian Rogers at either of the next 2 games.
Well, I hope more than that. I hope there's contact details put on our club website, also the trust website. Encourage as many people as possible to go. That we didn't take one on Saturday, I think, is a big disappointment and rather surprising. Well, there you go.
Don't ask Jake.
That's why we've got people like you in the trust there getting it going, Jake.
Thank you, as always, Dave. You're such a kind man, aren't you?
Right, I think it's quite a short one tonight, isn't it? People have got off lightly.
Have we got a not predict for the next 2?
You can do. It's pretty pointless last week. Might as well give it another go.
Oh, God.
Go on then, Jake. Oxford,
I'll go 2-1 Saints.
and Hungerford.
Oh, 3-1 Saints.
Lee, Jake's got no faith in our defence by the looks of it, Lee.
Well, I'm going to go for 1-0 against Oxford, and I'm going to go 2-1 against Hungerford.
Oh, look at us.
7 points.
I know.
We take that.
We'll be top of the table in no time, lads. Come on.
That celery pizza is going to taste great, mate, when that comes out fresh out the oven. That's going to be great.
But one thing going back to Chelmsford, Lee mentioned about the free tickets they gave away. The gate in the end was over 800, they announced. He just wondered how many of those, apart from idiots in Tottenham, actually paid for their ticket to get in. There must have been a heck of a lot of freebies there.
So I think I read on their forum it was quite a significant chunk of people. So, you know, but you know, as Lee said, non-league club owners, they're wonderful things, aren't they?
Yes. Right, be interested to see how many we get on the next 2 games. The average last season was over 1,300. So one would imagine that's going to carry on as we look for this good start.
Right. At the park, beating that number and all that jazz.
Bring your sun cream.
Absolutely.
On that wonderful note.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you very much.
See you Saturday.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Cheers.